It's national meets regional. It's Sidewalks Entertainment. The long-running celebrity, music, and art series. Join us for a new path to arts and entertainment.
Hey everybody, well, it's time for Cindy's Corner, and today we had a very unique and unusual thing happen when I was conducting my interview with Mr. Bruce Greenwood, who I'm a huge fan of. He was actually one of the very first interviews I ever did, celebrity interviews that I've ever done. So it was exciting to kind of get a chance to visit with him again. So we called Mr. Greenwood and we started having audio problems in studio. He couldn't hear me well. And so we had to find an alternate way for us to be able to speak to him. And so lo and behold, we had to rely on the handy-dandy, old-fashioned means of speaking to one another called a handheld phone. That's right, people, not a cell phone, not, talking through your computer, an actual phone. So I did the entire interview with the phone. So just so you could have a chance to catch up with Bruce Greenwood, and it may be old-fashioned, I'm old-fashioned, but it allowed us to bring you this interview.
No one plays me. What is this, your check 6?
Remember, I told you that only you are independent on this commission.
Do others on the commission? Do they know stuff?
Everyone knows some, or all, but they're all bound. It's Washington. What can be acknowledged, how, by whom.
You go drag me into this?
No, it's absolutely not. You're coming at it completely differently. I told you, because I believe that you, and only you, can use what you have. You can use the science to cut through them, to ensure that the real reason for those deaths gets out. That is made completely clear to the public. NASA's forced to admit it and has to reform.
I wish. Why can't people just say things the way they are?
Hi, Cindy. How you doing?
Hi, Bruce. It's so great to have you with us today.
Yeah, cheers. I'm happy to be here.
I have to tell you, it is a true pleasure to speak with you today, because I have to share with you that you were one of my very first celebrity interviews when I first began my career as a reporter many years ago.
Wow.
So I was really excited that we got the chance to speak again.
That's incredible.
It was a real exciting moment for me in my career.
Oh, cool. Yeah.
So I know that you are originally from Canada, but where did you get your start as an actor? Did you do acting school, or was it the School of Hard Knocks?
A little bit of both. I started out at the University of British Columbia because I needed 3 easy credits, and realized acting is completely subjective and you can't be failed for trying. And then I worked professionally for a while and wasn't very good, quite awful actually, and went to school in New York for a while, and then came back, did stage for a long time, and eventually moved to LA with a rabbit piled high with all kinds of junk.
Well, you have had a very long and stellar career with lots of different types of work. You have worked with people like Denzel Washington and Will Smith and Philip Seymour. Is there, when you see these people and you're working with them, is there anybody that's kind of on your oh my God list? Like, holy cow, I get to work with this amazing actor.
I'm constantly amazed at moment to moment with all kinds of actors I work with. So, when I was working with, I thought Anthony Hopkins the first time, I was a bit, a little bit agog, and I remember doing a scene with Ben Kingsley at one point, and was halfway through the scene, my brain I had sort of a complete system failure. All I could think of was, it's Ben Kingsley,
Yeah, I can imagine. Is there a role that you are most proud of as you're kind of looking back over all the great work you've done?
Oh, I find it very difficult to watch myself. So, there are little moments here and there where I go, oh, that was all right. But I find it very difficult to look back and go, hey, that was good. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's hard.
Well, let's talk about your film on the Science Channel called The Challenger Disaster. Mm-hmm. Where does this film story sort of pick up?
It picks up after the Challenger disaster in 1986, in which the entire crew was lost on sort of 45 seconds after takeoff. And the investigation that proceeded after that was presided over. It was called the Rogers Commission, presided over by a guy named Rogers. But they brought in Richard Feynman, the famous physicist, because he was the one person who didn't have any sort of political affiliations, any business affiliations, and he could be an independent thinker, and for which he was famous anyway. And they needed somebody who didn't have any irons in the fire.
Right.
And any dogs in the race.
Now, this tragedy is one that is forever imprinted on, you know, Americans' minds from that generation.
Mm-hmm.
I kind of akin it to sort of like, you know, the Kennedy assassination for my parents' generation. Do you remember where you were and what you were doing at the time when that tragedy occurred?
I had just moved to Los Angeles, so it was probably around the time you and I had our first conversation.
Well, the film has a very strong cast with William Hurt, Brian Dennehy. What was it like to work with these guys on set?
William, I'd heard, I haven't seen many of his movies, of course, but what is difficult to define about him is that he does tremendous preparation, and he's very serious about it, and really is willing to talk about the role all day long, and what the character might be thinking, what he might have done, and he's one of those guys who does just phenomenal amount of research, and then just let stuff happen in the moment, which is it's really fun to watch. I was constantly sort of amazed at what he was doing.
Mm-hmm. What do you want people to take away when they watch this film? What do you hope they take away?
Well, I think it's a reminder of the culture of obfuscation that happens in industries that require funding to survive, and it's also something that you might not be out of line to say it's within human nature to try and protect things that try and protect yourself at the expense of others. And Feynman's search for truth, his relentless search for truth throughout his life, is I think a more resonant reminder that's the kind of thing we should be striving for, rather than protecting our own interests.
Right. I can't let you go today without asking you about Star Trek. There have been 2 films made with you and Chris Pine as sort of the leads. You know, would you like to see a third? Is there more stories to be told in the Star Trek genre? Oh,
yeah, I would like to see a third, and I would like to see a third from, you know, the other side of the, from within the Enterprise. But, you know, we'll see.
What is it about the Star Trek phenomenon that has made it so beloved by fans? It just continues to live.
That's a great question. I think in the last couple iterations, it's not just the style with which J.J. presented the story. It's the cast. The cast is really personable, and I know them, so I love them all. But I think people really get the feeling that they're accessible.
Right. Well, as we close, would you like to say anything to your fans who have supported your career all these years?
You're not as old as you think you are.
I love it. Bruce, thank you so much for being with us today
Okay.
on Sidewalks. It was such a pleasure to have you.
Cheers. Thanks, Cindy. Bye-bye.
For more full-length celebrity interviews, visit sidewalkstv.com.